From the Nasdaq market site in Times Square, I'm Brad Smith, and you're watching Behind the Bell. Happy Friday, aka Friday, to all of our viewers. As you may have seen on CNBC or even here on Facebook Live, NBC News Sunday Today with Willie Geist rang the opening bell to officially kick off the trading day, and we're now joined by the man himself, Willie Geist, host of NBC News Sunday Today with Willie Geist. Willie, great to have you.
Brad, good to see you. Friday.
Friday.
Friday. I like. Is that a Kanye reference, or what is that?
You know, something like that.
Something. You don't even know what it is, do you?
Well, all the kids are saying it. That's all we got to know.
I'm not cool enough to know what that is, but I like it. I'm going to start using it.
You're pretty cool to me. So we're just millennials at heart, right?
Oh God, I wish I were a millennial. Not even close. Speak for yourself.
Well, you know, you guys absolutely packed out the house this morning, ringing the opening bell at Nasdaq. How was the experience? What was
it was
like?
incredible. I mean, first of all, to be asked to ring the bell at the Nasdaq is cool enough, and I didn't realize when I got here what an operation it is. What you guys do here is incredible. I mean, you do it every day, so you have it down to a science. But for us to be able to bring our Sunday Today team in here, get all our producers, all the people who wake up early and work so hard on the show, and give them the opportunity to be up there with me. Really cool. And then, you know, you're up on the big screen outside. So you got all the people from around the world yelling at you. It's awesome. I mean, you're this way too, probably. We get to do so many things and meet so many people. Sometimes you get a little jaded. Yeah. But then something like this comes along, you're like, whoa, that was cool. Absolutely. So it's an honor. Yeah.
And when you get out there in Times Square, being that it's the crossroads of the world, like you were saying, there's so many people that recognize you from, you know, this, that, and the third that you've worked on, and it's a great opportunity to just engage with them in person. Sometimes we don't get that opportunity.
Yeah, and also it's a cool thing to be able to tell my mom, who's like gotten used to it. She's like, yeah, you're on every day. I'm like, Mom, I rang the bell at the Nasdaq.
And I was on a billboard
I was on the
afterwards.
billboard, and I might even get my kids to pay attention to me. I was up on Times Square, because otherwise, when I'm on in the morning during the week, no interest. They're 7 and 9. I don't think they know what I do for a living when I leave the house.
Really now?
They're like, oh, you're like a lawyer or something. So maybe this will get my kids' attention.
Modern day Clark Kent, that's all you tell them.
Exactly.
So you guys were here today celebrating the 65th anniversary of the Today Show, and you guys have been waking up Americans to great news for 65 years. What is it like to be part of such an iconic brand?
It's amazing. I mean, I've been there officially for 5 years, but been doing things for the show for probably about 10 years. And it's never lost on me, you know, to appreciate when you walk in that door. And in 1952, this thing started with Dave Garroway. He had J. Fred Muggs, who was a chimpanzee, the show's mascot, riding around. And from that moment forward, all the incredible names in TV who come through there, you know, Barbara Walters, and up to modern day, we had Katie Couric hosting with us last week, Meredith Vieira this week, the great Savannah Guthrie doing it, obviously now. And for me, to be able to watch a guy like Matt Lauer, who's been doing the show now for 20 years, his anniversary this week as well, to be able just to watch how he does his job, you know, it's an honor to be a part of something that big, but it's also a learning experience and a growing experience just to be in the room with some of these people every day.
Certainly. Now, Sunday Today with Willie Geist, you as the host, launched in April 2016. What can you tell us about that launch? What's been the build-up? You know, what's going on, and how is it different?
Yeah, so NBC came to me and they said, we want to do something special on Sunday. You know, we've got Meet the Press. CBS has Sunday morning, 60 Minutes is on Sunday. It's a special day where people are willing to take some more time. You know, they're kind of relaxed. It's not like the weekday where you're running out to school or trying to get yourself to work. Right. And so what could we do on Sunday morning that maybe just to tweak the existing brand and the existing show that's there today? So what we've done is keep that Today Show feel. You start the show with news, but we go a little bit longer, maybe in depth on our interviews. And then in the back half of the show, it becomes more of almost a magazine show. So we do these 7-8 minute profiles, which for people like us is a dream come true in a world where you get 2 minutes or 3 minutes with somebody. To be able to go that long and to, you know, have huge stars. You know, we've done Justin Timberlake and Anna Kendrick and Dolly Parton and Bette Midler and Ice Cube and Common and Misty Copeland, all these people I've always looked up to get to spend a couple hours with them and get it down to a good 8 minutes. It's cool, you know, and the viewers have come along with us on that ride. They're willing to sit and spend that much time with you. So I think Sunday has always been a special day. So when that came up, in addition to the other things I do during the week, I jumped on it immediately.
And it seems like during these interviews, during these profiles, they really seem to open up to you as well. What's your strategy there?
I think there's also something about you're not live. You know how it is. You come in a studio. Okay, we've got 3 minutes, and somebody's counting down, and
Right.
you're trying to race through and remember the guest is remembering his talking points about the movie. If we go, and I try to take it outside of studios, so we'll go to bars and restaurants or places that are significant to the people. Yeah, comfortable. Yeah. And to be able to sit across from them, and a lot of times it's one of these things where publicists will say, all right, you got 30 minutes with them, and you'll look at your watch and it's been an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Because we're both enjoying it so much, and it's such a natural conversation that if you're sitting across from somebody having a drink or sharing a meal, you just naturally, I think, let your guard down, and they have more time to talk through. I like to sort of talk about their journey. What were the roadblocks? How did you get started? Were there moments where you weren't going to be a musician? Or,
right.
I sat down with Ice Cube, and he talked about the moment where he was done. He's like, this isn't going to work. Yeah. He was going to go back to drafting school because he was into architecture, and then NWA's record gets picked up, and the rest is history. But I'm interested in those moments. We all know them as stars, but what did it take to become a star?
Exactly. So there's so much to that journey, and so many of those basically huge icons across industry that you've spoken with, that you've already had these interviews with. Who were some of the ones you're targeting for this year that are on kind of your bucket list, would you say, for 2017?
Yeah, we've had good luck. I mean, I think the word is starting to get out that these are sort of a fun, friendly environment where you can tell many layers to your stories. Sure. So, people that I look up to, I think I'd love to get some politicians to sit down in that setting now. We've had a lot of CEOs and movie stars and musicians, but trying to get, President Obama would be great. Absolutely. After his presidency. Yeah. Just to sit and reflect and look what's the rest of his life look like with the First Lady. Right. President George W. Bush is still very interesting to me. There are obviously big stars that, I'd love to get. Mick Jagger. I grew up in a Rolling Stones house. I've interviewed him before, but not for this show. Love to get him to.
You got to play some music with him. That'll be an easy way to get him on the show.
Right? The first time I ever interviewed him, I did a little of I grew up doing the Mick Jagger dancing, as one does.
We've got to see it.
And it's just, it's in here. And I did that for him, and I was like, let's see how this plays. Yeah. And he did crack a little smile, and I was like, okay, we're good. He was doing a movie about James Brown. He was the executive producer of this movie. And Get On Up. And I said, compare your style to James Brown. James Brown's more in the feet, he can move, and you're up in here. And he looked at me like, I don't know you, man. But then he gave me a little smile, so we were good. So I'd love to get him back and dance a little more for Mick Jagger.
Absolutely. I think any of us, we strive to get in front of our dream musician. Me, it would be Michael Jackson, if that was still a possibility.
Yeah, for sure.
And just be like, so what do you think about this moonwalk here? And just, just give it a shot.
You got to do it in a small dose first to see if they're into it.
Yeah, just 2 steps.
If they respond, you're good.
Give them a little pat-pat.
A lot of times I'll be like, don't do that, man. Don't do. Another one, Kendrick Lamar. I want to talk to
Kendrick Lamar. Yeah,
we've been trying to get him. He doesn't do a lot of press, I don't think.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to Kendrick.
Very big on President Obama's list as well.
Exactly.
So when you have the president already vying for you and your lyrics, you've got to make sure that you get the artist there.
Absolutely.
So thinking about the development and writing of Sunday Today, what comes into that table, that meeting room, when you guys are putting the show together?
Well, since you're on a Sunday, there's an element of week in review to it. Can you believe all these things that happened this week, especially a week like this with Russia and confirmation hearings and all the rest of it. But you also want to look ahead, I think, a little bit. You don't want to be a pure week in review. So I look at the first half of our show as pretty newsy. Here's what happened last night. A little bit of what happened this week. If we'll have Chuck Todd on and say, wow, A, B, and C happened. What does it mean for this coming week? Obviously, we've got the inauguration this Friday, so we'll be looking ahead to that, or next Friday, a week from today. So there's, it's that blend, I think, of yesterday and tomorrow, but also a blend of news and just context around the news. So that's where we get into, the profiles hopefully are usually timely. Then we have what we call a trend spot. Like, here's something that's happening out there right now. There's this story that that the drug ecstasy, MDMA, could be useful to patients with PTSD, people coming back from war, for example, in small doses, obviously. And so we're looking into that this week. So it's what we do, I think, is pull something that you may have read a headline about, flesh it out a little bit, explain both sides of it, and I would just say give some context to the news.
Absolutely. Now this is not the only show that you produce. You're also on Morning Joe as well.
Right.
What can you tell us about that? How do you balance as well staying up with all the trends and the different news that comes about?
Yeah, Morning Joe is, we've been coming up on 10 years, not quite 65 years, but coming up on 10 years of Morning Joe. We launched that in April of '07. And it's become this thing, it's become a stopping place. It's on MSNBC since, I would really say since the beginning of the 2008 election was when we made our mark, a place where politicians, influencers, newsmakers come in. It's the show that's on in the Senate gym and the House gym, and they watch it in Washington and New York and on Wall Street. And so it's become an influential show. It just has. And Joe Scarborough created it and brought along Mika Brzezinski and myself. And so the three of us have been there together for 10 years. And that's my more deep in the weeds politics. You've got to know every line of every story and know who said what. And you got to really be on top of everything. And that's, I think this news doesn't wait till the next day, as you know. It's every minute. So it's a 24-hour process keeping up with it. So I'll spend an hour before I go to bed making sure I've got everything nailed down. And then when I wake up in the morning, I'll go through and see what the new headlines are, read some op-eds. But around that table on Morning Joe, there's no script, really. I don't know what's coming next, so you better be able to prepare. We'll throw out the national championship game. We'll do 5 minutes on Clemson and why they were so great and what happened and why did Nick Saban get rid of Lane Kiffin the week before. So you'll do that, and then you might talk about the Oscars, but mainly you got to know what's going on in politics and the news every day. Absolutely,
and I can definitely attest to Morning Joe when it was getting kind of that launch as well, and even on the political side when Drexel University, my alma mater, actually hosted the 2008 one of the debates. I remember Morning Joe being on campus there as well.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, we do road shows during the campaign, which is Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada. And so, it's been, this is our third presidential election. We did 08, 12, now 16. And now, I feel like our job and the job of the media in general is as important as it's ever been. There's so much information. It's a fire hose coming at you every day. Donald Trump holds a press conference and talks about his finances, but within that he announces a VA pick. He says, actually, I think Russia did hack us. It just never stops. So you've got to filter it through, decide what's important and what's true, and give it to the viewers.
Absolutely. So many things we could talk about there, but just before we wrap, for some of our viewers, knowing the millennials out there, the next generation perhaps of broadcast leaders and people who want to get into your shoes, the same space, be an anchor, be in media one day, what piece of advice would you give to that next generation of ambitious broadcast
leaders? The media
is
so different from when I started. I think my first job was 19 years ago, maybe today, or this month anyway. I started at CNN Sports. I took the first job that was available on TV. I was a sports fan, so it was a nice fit. But I would have done anything. I lived in Atlanta, and I worked for CNN Sports. And I think, although media is different, and there are different ways to get into it, I think there are some universal truths and universal rules that are always true, which is work your butt off, impress people around you, raise your hand, say yes, do all the things you're asked. Sometimes when you work in our business, as you know, the hours can be strange. I've been waking up way too early for 10 years and going to bed way too late, and now I work on the weekends. And when I worked in sports, I worked every weekend, every holiday, every night, because that's when the games were. And so you have to decide are you committed enough to this dream you have of working in media to do all those things to get where you want to go. And I decided it was worth it, and it has been. And I would just say in those dark times, maybe when you feel like you're working at 3 in the morning and you don't know what am I doing with my life, just know that you have a really interesting job, and you will always meet interesting people. You'll go cool places. You'll always be at the center of the story. You'll always have something to say at the dinner party. People will be asking you things about what's happening in the world. And it's a fun place to be, and sometimes you take it for granted, or you say, what am I doing with myself? But for me anyway, it's always been worth it.
Certainly. And you bring up a good point, and I think what I'd be interested in knowing, and perhaps our viewers as well, how do you find time to get that balance in there as well? You've got a family, you're athletic, so you've got all these different pieces that are coming together and working out so well on the broadcast and media side. How do you find that work-life balance?
Yeah, I think for me, the upside of working early in the morning is that I generally have the evenings where I can be with my kids. So in a weird way, it's better, because I think most dads I know are there in the morning when it's this chaos of getting the kids to school, get them out the door.
You don't get the quality time.
Yeah, and so, I mean, there are many nights, more than I would like probably, where I do have to go back out at night and do an event or do something or travel. But for the most part, you know, when 5:30 or 6 o'clock rolls around, like, I can be there and I can have dinner with my kids, and like that's from, call it 6 to 8:30. That's 2.5 great hours with your kids. And then I try to stay open on weekends. I pop in on Sunday and do my show for a few hours, but I try to be with them. So I think it's, you know, somebody once told me that it's just about being there. You know, you don't, sometimes you think, oh, I've got this time with my kids, I got to plan something great and make it a big event, but they just remember if you were around, you know? And so there are days where my daughter looks at me when I'm leaving the house at night and says, where are you going this time, Dad? And that just drives a dagger through your heart.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's my job, and it's what I do for a living, and she'll start to understand that. But if I have a free moment, it's with my kids, and you have to commit to that. You know, you can't, I've stopped going to things that are sort of tangential, or, you know, maybe the book party of the person I don't know that well, because that means it's a night I wasn't with my kids. So you just have to be dedicated to it.
Absolutely. Well, we certainly thank you for spending time with us, a few moments, and being here and officially opening the markets for the day this Friday.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here, Willie.
I'm going to go Google Friday now. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Brad.
I think we both have to Urban Dictionary it just to make sure it's what we think it is. But thanks for being here, and thank all of you for watching live on Facebook. Stay tuned for more coming from the Nasdaq market site throughout the rest of the day.